regular meeting of the Frankfort Plant Board on Tuesday, July 19th, 2022 at 5 o'clock in the community room at the Frankfort Plant Board office. First item of business, Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Member DeLong? Member Cubine?
Here.
Member Mason?
Here.
Member Snyder?
Here.
Member Dutton Mitchell? I can't hear her.
Yeah.
You.
Are you muted?
I'm having trouble hearing.
Oh, we can hear you now.
Okay, we can hear you now.
She's having trouble hearing.
Okay.
Yes, you all are very faint.
Okay. We have two members tonight joining us, or whatever the term would be, by Zoom or whatever. So we've got a quorum and we're ready to do business. First item is, I think everybody knows that Hans Price is not going to be able to be with us tonight. His mom passed away last week, and so he's not able to be here, and I know everybody wants to send their condolences to Hans and his family. So next item would be consider approval of the minutes for June 21st, 2022 board meeting. Has everybody had a chance to look at them? Do we have any changes, corrections?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, do we have all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are approved. Next item is, it's informational, Mr. Denton, on the finances, because I understand you'll have the full report for us next month after closeout.
Yes, sir. We'll be bringing June and July statements to you in August. We just wrapped up our fiscal year June 30th, so we're closing up the books. We're accrual-based accounting versus cash-based, so booking some adjustments. One of the longest ones we wait for is our self-insurance fund. We have a run-out period to see what were the true claims at the end of June 30th, and that takes us most of the month to wait on that report. So we'll have them to you in the same form that they'll be given to the auditors. The auditors will be here the week of August 1st to perform the annual audit, and things are going well with that so far. So.
Anything in those financial reports, anything in the closeout that you've seen so far different from what we were looking at towards the end of the year, either on the revenue or expenditure side?
We're about as on track as we provided through May, and I
Okay.
think we might even have a smaller pension adjustment than expected. So anything below our estimates on that would help. That's usually our biggest unknown. So we'll have all those ready to go and be ready for a new fiscal year.
Next item, number 3, is any public comment. Ms. Poe, did anybody sign up?
No, sir.
And then we had a web-based comment. Do you want to cover it now, or we had one comment
We had
that was
one-
resolved, right?
Yes, I sent out the
Right.
comment as well as the response that was made, but it was resolved.
Okay. Next is departmental reports. Mr. Foster, you want to be the master of ceremonies?
Yes, sir. I'll be happy to do that. First off, we'll have the knock report of Darren Rambo.
Let's go, Darren.
All right, good evening. For the knock report, you'll find that on page 21 of your board packet. It looks like in June, the knock handled a total of 3,397 phone calls, which is a pretty big increase from what they're used to, but we had a couple large events and things happen that brought those numbers up, so.
What were the large events that?
We had some outages.
Okay.
We had a couple pretty good power outages and just customer service calls. It was just a big month, probably maybe our biggest month so far.
Okay.
And on the locate side, it looks like in June they did 734 locates, which is about on track again for this time of year. June kind of closes out the fiscal year. So for last fiscal year, 2021-22, they did 7,789 locates across 3 utilities, totals 23,367. So pretty busy year, and probably be the same, in the coming year. Any questions I can answer for
What do you
folks?
see on like construction, new permits, people wanting, needing locates? Is that holding about the same, going down some? Or?
Yeah, no, it's, this time of year, we always do the fence and shrub permits. It's kind of what we are, not permits, locates. People doing landscaping, but the large projects are really the busy work. Even though the numbers in, May it was 887, June 734. But what that doesn't reflect is the large projects we do, where a fence post or a mailbox or a shrub may take 15 minutes. A large project may take a day or a half a day or 2 days. because you know, you may locate 1,000 feet of street. So that locate number is a little misleading. The large projects are really demanding, so it's quite a bit of work.
Are you staying fully staffed?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, everyone's healthy and showing up to work, so that's a good thing. We'll take it.
Okay. Any questions for Darren? Catherine, you or Jason, any questions? Okay. Okay, thanks, Darren.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, next we'll do Cassie Estel with customer service. I think she's virtual. She'll jump on. There she is.
Hi, good evening, everyone. The customer service reports are in your normal package. Couple things to hit on. Our HCP numbers are up to 534, and I believe that we're continuing to work with the schools and trying to get that information out to all of the students, and through maybe their resource officers now is a plan of attack that we're looking into through our marketing department. Our holds have dropped again significantly. We're down to just 296 accounts that are on hold for a payment plan. So our numbers, the Frankfurt Plant Board had 2,100 accounts past due as of June 30th. So that dollar volume for that was about $650,000, and that's the lowest we've seen since 2019. And also, we're below our historical average of past due since going to 2-cycle bills when we switched over. So we're definitely trending in the right direction with that. And I would be happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Steve, John, Catherine, Jason? Okay. Cassie, I'm still trying to sell for you, Cassie.
Appreciate it. You keep calling me.
Okay.
Okay, next would be public information. Kathy Lindsay, I think will do that.
She just appears out the door, you know, it just,
Hello.
you're hiding now, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Staying out of your sight. I just wanted to say, first of all, I want to give a huge congratulations to our crew over at Media Services. Our Game of the Week crew submitted a game from basketball season, and they won a Silver Rally Award, which is a telly. It's an award, kind of like an Emmy, but for it's a telly. So they won the Silver Rally Award for our live coverage of the 2022 FHS at FCHS boys basketball game from last season. And we can't say enough about the work that that crew does for live coverage of our high school sports. And it is award-winning. So I know that that's something that a lot of our customers appreciate, who are cable customers. They like to see our local teams on TV. So we do that for them. Speaking of things that we have going on, the Franklin County Fair starts today, and our crews are out. They'll be out there every night this week. They're covering all the pageants at the fair. So again, that's another thing that we do, and we get a lot of views on that. People like to see, their kids in the pageants.
Well, I live in Indian Hills, so I can't tell you how exciting Friday and Saturday night are with the tractor and truck pull.
I bet, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just like being there.
So that's going on this week, and we're covering events out there. Just follow up from last month. You guys approved our health and wellness policies and volunteer time off things. So we have moved forward with the Move Spring app. Kathy Jennings has been making sure that people got signed up for that. We're using that. I've got it on my watch. It's counting my steps, and we're doing challenges, and we're having good participation in that. Another thing that she has been working on is our Team FPB volunteer time, and she has sought out some events for us to participate in. We have 2 upcoming events for volunteer opportunities for our employees, and that's with the senior games, which start in August. And there's be lots of events between August and November that our employees can help volunteer with. And then also they're looking for volunteers, so we're going to put together a team to help with Bourbon on the Banks this year, which is in September. Another thing we've been doing, we're partnering with the city. We had a meeting with the city yesterday to figure out how we can get more information out about ACP and working with other organizations. We've reached out to the schools. We're making some materials for the schools instead of just, like last year, we just sent them a digital thing that they could print out and copy themselves. We're doing that ourselves this year. We're going to print out everything they need, deliver them to the schools, make sure that they get that information in the hands of all the students. We are also creating a QR code that will go on every handout that we give out, so that if we're out like downtown at a festival or these things that they hand out at the schools, that you have the ability to, with the QR code, you can just, do it on your phone, and you don't have to be at a computer or whatever. You can just do the QR code and you can try to apply on your phone. It'll take you right to the application process. We're also looking into doing some troubleshooting from people that we've talked to that have had issues about whether they are eligible or not. So we're trying to help them troubleshoot those issues as well, so that we can have that information to also share with the schools. It's hard to believe that we're already talking about school starting, but the Frankfurt Independent Schools, which everyone there is eligible, they start August 1st. So it's just right around the corner. It's coming up. Our SATCOM campaign is done, and it was successful for Next Band customers. That was our sales campaign. So they have wrapped that up. We are also continuing on with direct marketing for the Next Band. You might have gotten some stuff in your board packet of just direct information that we are sending to our customers, and we've also worked on putting together some budget materials for other things that we've talked about doing. More information to come on that. Also, just to let you know that we've had some good things happening in our cable advertising. Our account executives are very excited about. They had a good political season back in the primary, and we're looking to start building on that again. We're just coming up on general election for that, so we'll be preparing for that. We've also had some good other interest in sales that are taking place with Next Band. We've had our business product specialist making calls herself, just not only to businesses but to residents who have shown interest online for Next Band. So she's been reaching out to them personally to make sure that we're reaching everybody that has at least shown interest on our website, to make sure that they have every opportunity to sign up for the service. So I could go on and on, but I'm taking up everybody's time. We don't want to stay all day, all night. So,
You failed to mention one thing.
oh,
Miss Jennings
that's
is the new
right.
chairman of the United Way.
That's right. Kathy Jennings is
In Franklin County.
She's the new chair of United Way of Franklin County, and she'll be that is actually a good resource for us to help us getting information out. They work with a lot of the organizations that we like to try to reach, especially with information with ACP, and then also some volunteer opportunities for us, and then just kind of plugs us in ways that we can help our community, and if they need to help us, we're there too.
Right.
So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Kathy? Catherine, Jason? Okay. Vin?
Okay, next would be the telecom superintendent, Adam Hellett.
I can't compete with that.
Oh, no, she always brings out the good stuff. Ours is a little boring. So.
Yeah, so the cable report starts on page 37 with the customer penetrations. The next couple months or so, we'll try to add a column there to bring on the Next Band, so we can kind of monitor that as well. So we'll have that. We had 5 outages for the month. Basically, 4 out of those 5 were storm related. Trouble call is up quite a bit since this time last month. In a 3-day period, it was like a Friday. I don't know if y'all remember, we had a storm come through kind of 11 o'clock. We took 150 trouble calls in 2 days. And so that kind of put us behind on some stuff, and we're working with customers, trying to stay patient with us as we get some of that stuff. But a lot of it was, some of the customers, unhooked something, didn't hook it up right, but we took quite a few trouble calls in a couple-day period there. So Next Band, we're wrapping up in Silver Lake. We have crews over there actually pulling the fiber in, so we're getting ready to get that spliced up and try to get those services turned on. We moved the underground crew to Berry Hill subdivision, so they'll be over there, start drilling and working in that area. And the overhead crew has moved to Bell Point.
Okay.
And so they're working in there, getting all that built. And that build actually ties into one of the greenfield areas as well, kind of out Ball Island.
Right.
So on the countywide, just a little update there. Engineering staff's working on getting easements for OLT. That's where some active equipment will go in the field. We're working on getting those instead of the engineering company. And the engineering company is doing some high-level routes and getting fiber counts so we can start our walkout design. So.
And fiscal court designated Sherry Sebastian.
And Andrew.
Andrew Tippett. So you're staying in touch with them and keeping them.
Andrew and some of the engineers, we've been emailing back and forth.
Good.
Because there's been some questions, there was one or two houses that wasn't listed, and it's like, well, there's actually a 2-mile stretch of road, and that's why it's not listed, and, it actually ran off into another area, so we've been talking back and forth, making sure everybody's kind of.
Well, I know fiscal court that night was very interested to have regular communication back and forth so they could answer questions from their constituents and so forth, so.
Yeah, so right now is probably the end of the month, we'll have a little better, and we'll probably have a meeting with Sherry and
Okay.
Andrew,
Good.
and kind of go over some stuff.
Any questions for Adam? I have one.
Adam, on your customer service penetration data that you had, in past months, I seem to remember that we had a line on there for comparison purposes for what we had budgeted in terms of the number of customers for each of the service. Has that gone away, or is that?
I think what happened was, not to cut you off, we had a request to make all the reports look the same.
Okay.
The 3 years, and so I think that column got dropped off, but we should
Okay.
be able to add it back.
On this one, I'd really like to see, because a lot of our budget stuff's predicated on getting this many folks for cable,
Right.
this many
Right.
folks for that. I think it'll give us a good idea of where we are in terms of what we've projected.
Well, that was the other thing too, because as we turn on next band customers, they're going to drop off one column.
Right.
So like we're
Absolutely.
trying to balance that. That's
Absolutely.
why we're going to add that column.
Thank
back.
you.
Okay.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah.
Steve?
What's the county's direct involvement with the deployment of the internet?
What is their what? I'm sorry.
Their direct involvement. Do they have a role, or a practical role, other than just being, on paper a partner? Or,
Well-
I know that you said something about easements and those types of
Yeah.
things, and
So that's been
No.
of a lot of discussion, if they, if they would actually, especially the magistrates in the area work with us in getting those easements, and they've kind of assured that they would. Just kind of facilitating with, their constituents is probably their biggest thing they would have involvement in, so.
I think Scotty Tracy has been a big help, because when we did Shadrick Ferry, he and Sheriff Quar were really involved with the neighbors and
Yeah.
trying to explain the easements, and I think Scotty has been able to, kind of explain to the other magistrates what they're in
What the
for.
process is, yeah.
And what the process is, so they're prepared,
Okay.
because they're gonna get a lot of questions from their neighbors, what are they gonna do? They gonna tear up my yard? What's gonna happen?
Yeah, there's another thing we're gonna ask is there's a filing fee. It's $50 per easement. We're gonna ask the county if they'll waive that fee, because, that's
Yeah.
2,000 applicants, so we'll
Yeah.
see. Things like that we can work together
Yeah.
on, and just save money in the project. We'll explore.
Well, so far, and I don't see any reason won't be, they've just been, the magistrates and all of them, Tippett and the lady, their grant person, Ann Northcutt.
Yep.
They've just been over backwards to try to help. They've really been good, from what I've seen.
Yeah, no problems at all.
Yeah,
Hopefully we can get it going.
thanks. Okay. Catherine, Jason? Okay.
Okay, with no other questions on that, we'll move to the electric department. I've got Scott Hudson virtually, and when he gets done with his report, we'll let Travis give you a quick AMI update. So, Scott, are you online there?
Yes, can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
All
hear
right,
you.
good evening, everybody. As normal, our SAIDI numbers this for the month of June are going to be 32.25. Our total outages were 45. Total customers affected was 357. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Questions? Okay.
All right, if there's no questions there, I'll just give a brief AMI update. We're at 7,724 electric installs and 5,297 water installs. same stories the past few months. Material shortages seem to be persisting for a while. Water is doing a little better than electric, so it's been a good opportunity for them to kind of catch up on number of customers online, but we're just, doing what we can with the material we have and staying on the vendor to fulfill deliveries. Any AMI questions?
John? Sure.
Travis, at one of our next meetings, this 7,700 number, 5,200 number, are we always able to put in electric and water at the same time, or are we covering the same areas, or are we covering different areas? Can we get a sense of, where these AMIs have been installed for electric, where they've been installed for water, and the thought process behind how that's been rolled out?
Sure, we can have all that compiled. But yeah, to answer your question at a high level, we try and overlap as much as possible. It doesn't always work out that way, but I'll present something in a little more detail next
Can the
month.
same crew do both? Or does electric do the electric and water do the water? Or can the same person do AMI on both water and electric?
Right now, we have had electric doing electric and water doing water, just people sticking to their area expertise.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Right.
Any questions? Jason, Catherine, for Travis?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, next I'll give you a quick update on SEPA. For the month of May, we cleared $283,530. And so for the calendar year, that brings us to $839,981, which is pretty good.
How'd that compare to what we had budgeted?
We have about, again, that's a calendar year. For the budget year, I think it's 1.33 million roughly budgeted, so we're doing pretty good. The market, is up quite a bit on energy, so it has increased the value of our items there. So financially, it's coming out pretty well. If no one has any questions on SEPA, I will turn it over to Gary if he has any questions or any information on KYMEA he'd like to provide.
I really don't have much new except the last board meeting, KYMEA approved the rate.
Okay.
As we expect, it's only 3%, which is catch up last year's KU's transmission increase.
And that squares up with what we had budgeted and what we planned.
That's as we planned.
Yes.
As being I report to you every month.
Yeah.
It's the very same line.
Okay.
But overall, I don't have any other thing except you have a question.
Any questions? Jason, Catherine?
No.
Okay.
Okay, next we'll do the safety report with John Lyons.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Safety report can be found on page 49 and runs through page 50. For the month of June, there were no OSHA recordables. On the subject of vehicle accidents, we did sustain one. The telecoms department van was involved in a motor vehicle collision. Minor cosmetic damage resulted to the rear driver's side quarter. No injuries, and the vehicle remained operable.
No injuries on either side, either us or the other party?
No, sir.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next I'll do the water department. We'll start with Brian Bourne. He'll do the water distribution report. Then I'll have David Billings, the director of water, jump in on the reservoir report, and then we'll finish up with the water treatment plant. Go ahead, Brian.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, board members. The water distribution monthly report is on pages 51 through 53. We installed 5 new services. We had 5 main breaks and 2 outages. Besides the normal board report, we completed our annual flushing program, and we've also done the new install at the Humane Society on the water main. That's been installed. And we're also working on a line replacement project on Cedar Crest Court and Ashwood Court. We have had a rash of main breaks, but we're keeping up with everything pretty well. I'll answer any questions.
Is the rash of main breaks, is that seasonal or just the age of the pipes? It's just going to be that's just the way the world is, or what do you see going on?
Well, what I believe the dry weather and the cracking of the grounds caused several of our breaks in the last month. So since we've gotten the rain, things have slowed way down. So that's a good thing.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Brian? Catherine? Okay. David?
Part of that is we didn't have any in April or May,
Right.
so law of averages will catch up with you
Yeah.
eventually. So.
We're playing makeup. Yeah, we know when we have a few good months, we're gonna pay for it.
Well, I had one at the end of my street, and I reported into Gary immediately, and Gary just told me to go back home. So,
Yeah, that was a good one.
yeah, that was a good one.
That was a good one.
Gary told us to call water.
Good evening, Board. Reservoir construction update. We had a construction progress meeting earlier this month on the 11th. We have received and approved the 11th payment request. To date, we are 83% complete with the contract amount, with 72% of the contract time having elapsed. Ongoing work includes continuing construction of the retaining wall, continuing demolition of the north basin, and backfill around the new tank. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Catherine, Jason, anybody questions? So when you look up there, David, where you can see where the reservoir is painted, that color is going to be, and then where it's plain concrete below it, that's where the dirt's going to come up to on
Yes, sir.
on the retaining. Okay. Questions? Okay.
Okay, if no other questions, Brandon, the water treatment superintendent, will give us the report he has.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. The water treatment plant portion of your packet is on page 55. For the month of June, the water treatment plant treated 256.5 million gallons of water for an average of 8.55 million gallons per day. Lock 4 averaged 1,720.6 cubic feet per second for an average of 1.1 billion gallons per day. And there were 2.7 inches of rainfall in the watershed in June. If you got any questions, I'll happy to ask them or answer them.
So right now, pool levels, all the flow, everything's.
It's pretty good compared to for the rain that we've had.
Yeah.
We haven't had any problems.
Yeah.
But staying pretty good.
Steve, John, Jason, Catherine, anything? Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that would complete our departmental reports.
Thanks, Ed.
Yes, sir.
Okay, action items. First item is item 5.1. Consider a contract amendment and Bluegrass Community Action Agency for income qualifying energy audits and weatherization. This was a contract we entered into last year, and it's a renewal. So Travis?
Yes, sir. You said it last year. We approved a contract, or the board approved a contract with Bluegrass Community Action to do home energy audits and weatherization improvements. The contract has an annual renewal option with the approval of the contractor, in this case, Bluegrass Community Action, and approval of the board. So before you this evening is an amendment essentially memorializing that renewal. The board approved in this year's budget $40,000 for the program. Be happy to answer any questions. I should also say, at the budget meetings, some reports were discussed. If it suits the boards, I'll have those prepared in August. We can present those to you. I'm still working with the contractor a little bit to get a few of those parts and pieces ironed out. They're going to provide me some data. I'll also have some of the usage statistics available to present. If there's anything else specific the board would like to see in those, again, I should have those ready at the next meeting for you.
How do you feel the contract worked last year?
Went well. I think their customers were happy. Our customers, I should say, our mutual customer. Bluegrass Community Action seemed to be really happy with the program. Said it helped them a lot, especially filling in some gaps. You know, they have a lot of funding sources, so there's several different ways they can assist the customers, but they said this was a good tool for them to help some of the people that needed it, that maybe weren't in line for some of the other programs. So they were definitely happy with it as well.
John?
Did we, last year, the $40,000, did they go through all that money?
They did not. They were excuse me, well under that. From what I understand, they have several customers in the queue. I guess they just didn't happen to get
What
to
their
them.
bandwidth is in terms of doing it?
Yeah, that was kind of my understanding. So I think the interest is there, and they have many more that would like to take advantage of it.
What do they have the manpower? What do they have the manpower to do?
Right,
So,
yeah,
okay.
that's my understanding.
All right, thank you.
Any questions of Travis, Steve?
Yeah, the 5% administrative fee, is that, they get that off whether they spend the 40 or spend 10 of it, or is that per $2,000?
That's
event.
Yeah, per customer. I don't think it wasn't intended as a 5% of 40,000. You get it either way. It's 5% of the service amount
Okay.
that they.
So they're not getting the 5% cut right off the top?
Right, it's not 5% of 40 guaranteed by any
Okay.
means, no, it's 5% of the, the actual services they perform.
Catherine, Jason?
Yeah, just a few questions. Travis, I know you still have more numbers for us soon, but this is new to me. How many customers do you think were helped if you had to do a rough estimate?
We've got 5 that have been approved and finalized and paid for so far. Again, the way I understand it, they have several in the queue, 10 or more that are waiting to receive the service. So basically, they'll have either their employees or their contractor go in and perform an audit, and they'll also make the weatherization improvements while they're there. So the weather stripping, caulking, reflective painting, that kind of stuff. So.
Okay.
And Jason, what happened is, just a little quick background, we in the past were doing the energy audits and had a contract ourselves. And since Bluegrass Community Action has a contract with state government and gets the federal funding for LIHEAP and the various federal programs, we kind of went the path of coordinating with them so they'd combine our funds with the federal and state funds they're getting and coordinate the energy audits, and then they could link up that if you have an energy audit and then you need weatherization, they could provide that other piece in the equation. Because we had in our contract, correct me if I'm wrong, Travis, that if you did the energy audit firm couldn't turn around and try to sell you weatherization. Couldn't come in and say, oh, you need this and this, and by the way, here's a brochure, I'm ready to, so this way Bluegrass, which is created by state law, does it all. And they're just taking our funds and adding it to theirs. Is that correct, Travis?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So last year, or the years before, when we would do an audit, they were great, but at the end of the day, the customer, all they really received was a piece of paper that said, here's what you need to do. Mm-hmm. I think with this one, the advantage is not only are they being, understanding what they need to do, they're also getting some help that actually, is impactful in their electric usage.
Okay. Is beyond basically conservation, is there options for funding or assistance on more like HVAC and lighting, things like that, if they need it?
Most of this is intended for energy efficiency. So if you've got gaps around your doors, again, it's limited to $2,000 average per customer. So some of those bigger spends probably wouldn't be eligible. I think they try and tackle the biggest things with the best use of the money they have available.
Okay, cool. That sounds great. I'm glad we have that program.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion to renew the contract?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion, and Catherine gets the
I'll
motion,
second.
Steve gets the second. So, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's approved. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
Next one is 5.2, consider award of bid invitation number 1758, contract labor, FTTH, fiber optic splicing to Team Fiscal. Adam.
Yes, sir. So, last month we brought Team Fiscal, a bid from Team Fiscal to actually do overhead construction. I don't know if you remember, we talked to the board about splitting some of these projects up to see if there was some savings in it. And it looks like we're going to see about a 24% reduction by splitting this out. Even though Team Fiscal got it, we still got a better rate, about 24% less than what we're paying today. So that is good. So we sent it out to 3 bidders, had 3 bids. Team Fiscal was the low bidder. Team Fiscal started July 1st. They're actually the crew that's working in Bell Point today. They seem to be a pretty solid group. Of course, they've been around for ages.
Oh, yeah.
And so they seem to be doing a good job. I would recommend that we approve this contract.
And the funding for this all in the budget?
It's all in the budget under the next band build out. So,
Okay.
and
Any questions for Adam?
John, I have one.
John?
On the bid sheet, Adam, once again, and I see this a lot on some of your stuff especially, you'll have 2 bidders that are, right next to one another. You've got one that's, 2.5 times as much.
Yeah.
And are they an electric firm instead
That
of a
is
cable firm, and is that the difference? or-
Yes, and they actually
Okay.
bid a couple of years ago on a project. And
I
they're
remember that.
primarily electric linemen.
Right.
Electricom's the name of the company, yeah.
Right.
So
the expense is gonna be greater.
That's
Okay,
fine.
that's fine. Mr. Chairman, if there are no other questions, I'd move approval of award of bid invitation 1758, as described for fiber optic splicing to Team Fiscal.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's approved. Next one, item 5.3. Consider a change order from Rainbow Design for make-ready design work. Adam?
Yes, sir. So this one we got to work on. So, but Rainbow Design, they were actually won the design contract for our fiber overbuild for next band. They're also also doing the design for the countywide build.
Okay.
Well, with the countywide build, we have something that's called walkout, where they have to go out and mark every utility pole they're on. They have to mark the heights, the mid-span heights, the routes, and everything. And with the current inflation rate and things of that nature, they're asking for an increase for those services only. So the services we're doing as far as the next band overbuild of our existing, those prices stay the same. This is only for that walkout labor. We're guessing right now, we don't know for sure, but it's about a $350,000 increase to that project. We're looking at other ways that we could probably save some of that money. One thing I brought up earlier about the $50 easement fee.
Right.
To try to offset some of these overruns. So
Okay.
they've done a great job so far with the existing overbuild project. They've done some of this greenfield work already, but they're requesting the increase.
Okay. Mr. Denton, you feel we can manage this?
You know, it's just a matter of how much we can cover with the money we have.
Okay.
As this project stretches out, it could get a little tight for us. Hopefully, hopefully the world calms down, we get the supply chain under control, and that would help a lot.
Okay. Okay, do we have any further discussion with Adam?
Yeah, I do. Where do Adam, what are these prices, where do they compare to the original prices in the contract?
Some of this stuff was not, well, I take that back. They did an average of, I think, 35 cents a foot.
Okay.
And so we asked them to break those out, and in the
Okay.
tab sheet there is. And they're basically saying that's the market value.
Okay.
That's the same, that they do some design work from some other big, and they're saying this is what we charge everybody.
Okay.
So,
And they're literally walking the county for us.
yes, they're
Yeah,
walking
right.
198 miles.
Right, I understand.
So John, is this an existing contract where we had locked prices in, or is this a new
Yeah, so
venture?
the original contract was for our overbuild and next band. We had a small portion that was for Harvey Land Road, which was greenfield, whether we got the grants or not, we were gonna do. They've done portions of that under the old contract, but they're saying now that with the current labor rate,
They
and to
can't.
get qualified people, they can't do it for that price, and this would be the new pricing.
And this is to expand that contract to cover, since we got the award,
Right, exactly.
and to do the whole
For all
county.
the greenfield we got
Yeah.
in the county.
Now, when we bid this out 2 years ago, they were $1 million cheaper.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm asking, it's more of, I guess, a fundamental question. They signed a contract to do this work at a certain price.
Right.
And now they've come back because their costs have gone up and want,
Well, they signed to do the overbuild on the city. They haven't decided, they didn't sign this contract to do
well,
anything
that's
in
why I'm
the
asking
county,
whether it's
correct?
the new venture as opposed to an existing.
Oh.
No, there was a small portion in the original contract. There was, like I said, it was just for Harvey Land. It was like $300,000. A small portion of that contract was to do the walkout design, because that was the only area that we really had budgeted at the time to build. Since we've got the countywide, we approached them again. It's like, okay, we're gonna do more than that. We're gonna do the entire county.
So we had a contract to do X.
Right.
We've now come to them and say, we want you to do Y.
And they're
And they said, we'll
basically
keep our
saying-
price the same for X,
But-
but for Y, this is our
Okay,
rate
so
if
this
you
is
want
a
us to
new
do it.
venture, okay.
Yeah.
And it's only for the walkout portion.
Right.
So the same design rate, it's in there, the
On
10
everything
cents, that's the same. It's only the portion that they actually have to do something different as far as the walkout. And it's all pretty much labor driven.
Okay.
198 miles.
190 miles. Right at a million.
Better them than us.
Of some pretty rough area.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of hills.
Any other questions for
Lot of
Adam?
snakes.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I make the motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract approved. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Are you done, or is you coming back for any more? or- Okay. Item 5.4, consider award of bid invitation number 1755, annual price contract for ductile iron pipe, hydrants and ductile iron fittings, and tapping sleeves to core and main and valves to Ferguson Waterworks. Jennifer Heller.
Good evening. Our annual price contract, normally most of the items that the water department uses that we keep in inventory, we do an annual price contract for. This year, we did a little bit different. It's just for 6 months. Most people were not wanting to hold pricing for a year. So we did get a 6-month bid out, and we're going to try to come up with some other options after that. There's some things on the purchasing that we're trying to get other options for lead times and pricing. So this contract is actually just through the end of the year. So we'll either have a new bid or something else that, if a different route
Well, I
after
noticed,
that.
based on your notes, your write-up, what, pipes up 52%?
Yeah.
8% for fittings, 48% up for valves, 40% up for sleeves?
Right, everything increased pipe the most, and valves. And lead times also significantly increased, especially on the pipe. So right now, we are not out of any of this. This is just for new orders as we need it, but the lead times are quite a bit more, so.
Vin, is this what you were talking about like the other day too, like for transformers and that? Just the scrap metal and iron and materials is just, everything's through the roof?
Yeah, some of the lead times we've seen on transformers were extremely high as well. I mean, that's what we're trying to stock more items than we have in the past, because you're seeing lead times on some of these, 24, 32 weeks. Transformers, we've seen some bids for, out a year. So we are increasing the amount we're trying to keep in stock, but we're trying to look at a lot of different alternatives. I was telling you about transformers. We're trying to look at rebuilding some older stuff, because those, you're bringing them basically the core and everything there, so they can turn those around quite a bit faster. It's just difficult. We're just, every item you go to look at, you never know. Like it could be 24 weeks, and we check back 6 months from now, and it'll be 4 weeks, and the next item will be 26 weeks. It's just, there's no rhyme or reason. It doesn't, I don't think there's too many chips missing from your valves.
Right.
Is it nationwide, or just a lot of big infrastructure projects in the nation, or is just everybody?
I feel like it's manufacturing. It's more, I don't know if they're still having trouble staffing to build the stuff, or just we're so far behind when they were shut down. Like the transformers, from the manufacturers we heard from, they said that anything that they're manufacturing through the end of 2023 has been sold.
Wow.
So new orders would be over a year.
It's like you look around, is what has caused them to disappear. There's not, I mean, certainly there's areas of the country that are growing at a rapid rate, but, we've never seen manufacturing.
Yes, sir. Mr. Billings?
Yeah, I think it's a twofold thing. It's the war in Ukraine that's got the pig iron market tied up over there, inaccessible, causing the scrap iron market here to be fluctuating, and also the COVID. I think a lot of utilities were worried they weren't going to be able to get pipe, so they put in a lot of purchase orders for pipe just to make sure they didn't run out, and that's driven the demand up for it, which is driving the price up.
Yeah, so on this contract, the amounts totals are not necessarily what we will order. That was just our estimates. It could be less than that or more based on what we need, but we wanted the set pricing at least to get us through the end of the year till we can come up with some other options or.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Catherine?
And Vic, correct me if I'm wrong, but you all are keeping a much tighter rein and reassessing much more frequently the stock that you have, and you're gonna, is it next month you're gonna come back with maybe some options to consider in purchasing?
Yeah, we are keeping a much tighter check on things. We would normally meet, the superintendents would meet with the stockroom folks to go over our minimum inventory of each item, usually about once a year to 6 months, depending on what the item was, but they're meeting almost monthly now, and they're going over some things a lot faster than that. So we're keeping a really close look at that. We have adjusted inventory levels of a lot of equipment like we were talking about. Yeah, it's one of those things that chews up a lot of your day now that you didn't used to. It was something you didn't worry about, and I know from their standpoint, they do spend a lot of time working on it. Yeah, on the second question, I am hoping, we will be bringing some things to you next month that will have maybe some ways that we can be a little more nimble and take advantage of some. Sometimes we do see good deals on some things, but they're only going to be there for a day or so, and you have to jump on them really quickly. And our current way of doing things, obviously, is a little slow. So we're going to try to look at various options we can do. We're going to be discussing some of those with Hans. Obviously, we don't want to bring things to you that really aren't feasible from those standpoints. So we want to try to narrow that down to what we think will work. I can't promise you, no matter what we bring to you, we will keep looking at other ways of doing it, and we'll probably have to make additional modifications to keep adjusting to this crazy market.
All right, well, I appreciate that
Yes,
extra
ma'am.
work you all are putting in.
Brian, did you want to say something?
I was just going to echo what Vint was saying. I mean, we're watching stock weekly on all kinds of different materials that we need and keeping a close eye on it, so.
Okay. Any further questions for Jennifer? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's approved. Thanks, Jennifer. Next item is consider accepting March 8th, 2022 minutes, the Cable Advisory Committee. Harvey.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I don't have a whole lot to add to this item. They elected their officers for the year. The next regularly scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, September 13th. For the
So who's the chair and who's the officers for?
The chair is, that's a great question. It was Clay Baxter. It's not anymore. I believe Larry Totten is the chair and Trey Greenwell is the vice chair.
Okay.
So we'll have sort of had a rotation this year.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if it's in order, I move we accept the minutes of the Cable Advisory Commission of March 8, 2022 minutes.
Okay, any further discussion? Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes accepted. Thanks, Harvey.
Thank you, sir.
Next item is the general manager evaluation, and there's 4 items we need to deal with on this. First, just very quickly for the record, the process we used was all the board members did an evaluation on Gary based on the work plan adopted last year. Everybody did it independent, no joint scoring. They mailed them in. I compiled them. John Snyder and I met with Hans. Hans reviewed it. John reviewed it to make sure the math, all the comments were there. Then Hans looked at the math again. They prepared a draft, sent it out to all the board members. Nothing can be changed at that point. We have Gary's evaluation in front of you. He scored a 4.7 plus out of 5, and those scores are there. Everybody's had a chance to review. At this point in the process, if anybody wants to make a motion to change anything, delete, add, whatever we can, it's been compiled based on what everybody did independently and sent in. So the first question is, does anybody have any questions or changes they want to make to the evaluation? John and I have gone over this with Gary, late last week?
Yeah.
And went over it with him, the discussion, so, and it's the document that you have in front of you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, John?
If it's in order, I'd like to amend the job evaluation criteria for next year.
Sure.
To include interactions and oversight of our relationship with Kemia.
That would be
I
adding.
think that's going to be a real vital piece the next upcoming fiscal year in terms of how we deal with Kemia, and especially now that we're in the point of, what are the rates going to be? We held the line this year at 3%. What will we be able to do? And really trying to ride herd on them, make sure that we get the best rate possible.
And that would be, right now, there were 7. The criteria right now for next year would be implement fiber to the home, implement AMI, complete the reservoir project, community involvement, board communication, operation of agency, implement community solar, which is new, and then number 8 would be KYMEA relations.
Yes.
Is everybody okay with making that change, that addition?
What,
Yes.
what's the measurement on that? I'm just kind of curious.
Well, to me, it's our evaluation. Gary talks to us about what Kimi is trying to do, what they're proposing in terms of rates, what they're proposing in terms of their revenues and their reserves, and how they spend their funds.
And their future power contracts.
And their future power contracts.
Okay.
Okay. Jason, you or Catherine have anything to add to his work plan for next year?
No, thanks.
And this is something we can amend during the year. It's not chiseled in stone, but it's kind of gives Gary an idea of, from an operations standpoint. So the first thing would be, do we have a motion to approve Gary's evaluation for the period July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. Did Gary just make a second?
No. That was Steve. That was Steve, not Gary.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Evaluation's approved. Next is, do we have a motion to approve Gary's work plan for fiscal year 2022-23? That we just discussed that John amended?
That's as amended?
Yes, as amended.
With the 8 items.
Yes, with 8 items.
I will make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Work plan's amended. Next item would be Gary's current contract that he has basically provides what his salary increase can be. The contract amendment would simply say that his salary increase would be whatever the board determines.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I might explain, we talked about this with Hans when we had our preliminary meeting. Right now, the current contract that we signed with Gary allows us to go between 0 and 7%.
Correct.
And what we wanted to do was, this is not a inflationary adjustment, this is a performance adjustment. We wanted to give him that same amount. In order to do that, we would need to amend the contract in order to leave it up to the discretion of the board.
Right. And that would be, right now, the current provision in the contract is Gary can get between 0 and 7%, but that is determined by the discretion of the board.
Yeah.
So basically what this does, it takes out any dollar amounts and simply puts that his annual amount would be as determined by the board. So that would be the contract amendment. Do we have any discussion on that, or do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract amendment is approved. The last item is, in the last several years, we've given Gary whatever the employees got. And what's before us now is to award Gary whatever the board wants to award in terms of a salary increase for this year. Employees got 8%. So the question is, what do we want to give Gary? As I said, last couple of years, we've given Gary whatever the rest of the staff got.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's appropriate that our general manager receive the same increment that the regular line staff employees have got, and I would move that we give Gary an 8% increment for this fiscal year.
We have a motion to give Gary 8%. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Gary, do you want to third it, or?
Gary cannot third the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of awarding Gary the same increase that staff got on July 1st, say aye.
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 Those opposed? A salary increase is awarded. Okay? Next item is consider ratification of purchase of 40,000 powder of activated carbon, PAC, to the Carbon Activated Corporation for $40,000. Is this the long-awaited one, Brandon?
Yeah.
Test or back?
Well, no, this is not a test. This is not the test. This is just, we have to go to the second place.
Okay.
At the June board meeting, the board approved the bid for powder activated carbon to Ductile for $1.34 per pound. The award was based both on price and tested carbon quality. The winning bidder agreed to a delivery time frame of 5 to 7 days for each order. Due to the fact that Ductile could not fulfill their contractual agreement to deliver carbon within 5 to 7 days, the immediate need for the product, staff was required to purchase 40,000 pounds of carbon from the second place bidder, Carbon Activated Corporation. We have contacted Ductile and they are aware and, excuse me, and understand the situation and have confirmed that they cannot meet the bid required timeframe on this specific order. Water treatment staff will work with Ductile on the next required load to get them to meet the bid required delivery timeframe.
Okay, so to clarify, Ductile is still our winning bidder, and we're still gonna work with them when we can. But in this instance, we needed the 40,000 pounds, and they could not supply it, so we went to the second place.
Yes, we tried to order it on the 7th of June,
Uh-huh.
and we were not going to get a delivery date until the 28th. So it could be 8 days
Beyond
past
that.
that day. So we would run out if we didn't get it.
Now,
in that time sooner than we.
In
than that.
terms, in that purchase, did that go into the emergency purchase since we needed it for the treatment, or?
It
you know,
was a little of both.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were going through it pretty quick there for a while.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, we discussed the item with the staff attorney, and he approved that it was correct to go to the second bidder,
Okay.
so we passed that through everything.
What was the price difference? Was it the same, they give us the same price or different price, or?
It's 34 cents a pound cheaper.
Okay.
So it's a savings of $13,600, I think is what it works out to on 40,000 pounds.
And quality-wise, there's not enough of a difference to be a problem?
It should not be a problem.
Okay.
We may have to feed more of it to do what the carbon we were using.
Okay.
So, I mean, we may use more of it and probably go through it quicker, but.
Okay.
It's not effective as it's not as effective as the chemical that was chosen originally.
It just takes more of it.
So we use more of it, even
It
though
takes more than
even though it's cheaper,
it's
use more of
cheaper, but you have to use more of it to
Okay.
be as effective as
Okay.
what the original one was.
So do you think the original bidder is going to be able to perform, or do you think it was just a one-time problem, or do you think we've got ongoing problems with?
I don't think so. The explanation that I got from them was that they were stretched very thin with product, raw material, and trucking. So it was kind of a perfect storm for them where they just couldn't supply it in the time frame.
So do we need to simply ratify this purchase, or do we also need to give you the authority to continue to bypass them if they can't meet our requirements, so that you're not playing catch-up?
Just this purchase.
Okay.
If we order another load, we'll go back to Ductile and give them the.
How long does 40,000 pounds last us?
It can last you 2 years, or it can last you 3 months. I
Okay.
mean, we've gone through it. It just depends on how we have to use it and how much.
Okay.
And you said you did discuss this with general counsel, and
yes,
they signed
Yes.
off and approved on. Okay, Mr. Chairman, if it's in order, I would go ahead and make a motion to ratify the emergency purchase of the 40,000 pounds powder activated carbon from Carbon Activated Corporation.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Contract's ratified. Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
Okay, the next items is informational. We won't be taking any votes on these. It's just to give the board a heads up on things that are kind of somewhat on deck, so that you have time to either be thinking about them or just for general information. The first one, JC, you want to talk to us about heat safety prevention?
It's not like we need that anytime.
Good evening again, Board. I know it's going to be hot this week. Just like our chairman mentioned, this informational items to bring to attention to a new written program that's been added to our safety manual. And actually in April, OSHA launched what they called a National Emphasis Program to help combat heat-related injuries. A National Emphasis Program is a nationwide enforcement mechanism for OSHA to proactively inspect workplaces in the case for heat-related hazards in this. And of course, you know, we have quite a few employees that work both out in the heat and indoor heat as well. So to help aid in compliance by following OSHA's recommendations, the general manager has approved our heat illness prevention program to be added to our safety manual. This can be found in your board package, page 101 through 108. This written program outlines the scope, purpose, protective measures that FPB staff are expected to abide and perform to. Basically, if you actually look in your board packet, you can see that it outlines the scope, purpose, different type of risk factors for employees, the heat-related illnesses, the common ones such as heat rash, heat exhaustion, up to heat stroke. And then continuing on, you'll see our prevention methods, that a lot of these we've actually already been taking place in, providing, drinking water at all our job sites, adequate personal protective equipment that's necessary. We've also got a urine color chart, our heat index, I guess you call it application chart, and then also an application that's recommended by OSHA that explains what the heat index is, protective, measures and so forth. So this has actually been approved. Like I said, we've actually started training and educating our employees on it, and just wanted to bring it to the board's attention so you guys knew we're protecting our employees.
JC, is this like a best practice we get from like OSHA, or did we develop it in-house, or where did we get the?
Currently, so there's no standard for heat hazard. This is all done under what they call the general duty clause, so these are best practices as listed. So I looked at what's been going on in several other utilities, other industries, and OSHA does recommend that you develop a heat prevention program, so that's what we did. It's not required, but just being proactive, we went ahead and started.
Okay. Steve?
When I looked through this thing, it looked permissive for the most part, and shouldn't it be some shells and in there as opposed, for some liability protection, at a minimum for us?
So we left it open as best as possible, so our staff and of course our supervisors and department heads can act as they see fit to protect our employees. Since there's no official standard, Mr. Mason, we've tried to leave it to like best practices that's out there.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks kind of permissive in nature, and if something really goes bad out there, and it's a discretion, employee is encouraged to seek shade when they're overheated. It seems like it should be a little bit more.
Understand, sir, it can go all the way up to regimented rest breaks, if so, for instance, you were talking about employees wanting to be, access shade and so forth. We just tried to leave it up to the supervisor and of course our other staff that we feel well trained and qualified to actually, provide that. But if that's something that the board is interested in, be happy to revisit it and actually look at making adjustments.
At this point, especially like John said, it's kind of timely we're talking about this.
Correct.
Did we just issue the guidance, or did we bring, since you're really kind of relying on the supervisor on site to make the call, have we actually brought the supervisors in?
We've started actually doing training and education.
In person?
We started meeting at the safety meetings probably 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
We've done water, electric, and so forth, so.
But sometimes if you can't prove uniformity, in documentation, then you're still vulnerable. So that's why I'm saying some of these things need to be a supervisor shall make their employee seek shade when they appear to be heat stressed.
If that's
Well, I
something.
have a question. What Mr. Mason's talking about. I mean, I see some verbiage such as when you recognize heat exhaustion symptoms in an employee, you must intervene. I mean, there's some.
Yeah, there are some, but there are some that aren't. Encourage employees to frequently drink small amounts of water. And I see the intervention, but there was another there that said they are encouraged to do things as opposed to shall do.
Well, as far as mandating an employee do something like drink water is one thing, but mandating a supervisor, as in here, which is that you must act, you must summon emergency responders. I mean, that does make sense that those things are mandatory. I don't think you can force someone to drink water.
Yeah, I'm really thinking about the things that you can't make someone do something for themselves that they won't do, but the process of protection should be documented, should be a mandatory thing as opposed to permissive or discretionary.
JC, in terms of going through the best practices and did any of it come from like any type of medical professional or emergency room nurse or a doctor who specializes in this type of, just to
No.
kind of review it, just kind of give it a once-over?
No, sir, actually,
I know we don't have a FPB doctor or
We need to
nurse
get-
on staff,
we
but I
need to
mean, the
get-
health department, the hospital, somebody who might give it a once-over for us.
Correct. So when I was actually drafting this, I actually utilized OSHA's resources.
Mhm.
They actually have a fact sheet, and a lot of their stuff actually focuses from NIOSH and the Centers for Disease Control.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of this information is actually where it came from right there, sir. If that's something though interested, I'd be happy to reach out to our health department, local officials, and see if that's something the board would.
I mean, the health
be
department, you got the
interested in.
cabinet, for health and family services here in town, they've got, I mean, what do y'all think about, asking JC to reach out and getting a medical professional to give this, look at the verbs and some of those things? I don't think it would hurt to get that second look at it. And I'm sure the health department would be glad to do it for us.
Miss Mattingly's been excellent. She's
Yeah.
been very helpful to us all through the COVID pandemic and everything, so I'll be happy
And I think,
to
like
reach out.
Steve said, that kind of gives us one more layer that, in terms of due diligence.
Sure.
Okay?
Take care of that. Any other
Okay.
questions?
Any other questions for JC?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. Next item are all informational. First one on the visit, just to, update, just to make sure everybody knows, several weeks ago, Louisville Gas and Electric, at our request, hosted us at their facility in Shelby County. Lisa Kells with LG&E was just incredible in terms of working with us. They took us in and briefed us. The mayor and Commissioner May went with us. Gary and Vint were there. They basically gave us an overview of their programs for EV charging, for community solar. Then they took us out to the community solar, to their actual farm that you can see on I-64, explaining what they're doing and so forth. So I think we got a lot of information, a lot of ideas. Like I said, they were extremely gracious to host us and bring us down and spend about, 2 hours and a half with us. So, I mean, they were, I think it was well worth the visit. And there's a lot of things we can learn from what they've done. I think two things that were interested was on EV, they've actually are working with local business, whether it be restaurants, shopping malls, or whatever, to basically say if they want EV charging to generate business or revenue for their business, more traffic, LG&E's working with them to install, giving them a payment plan, putting it in, charging for electric, charging for installation, but seeing if those businesses want to do it. And it was interesting because there's been a lot of news coverage out of Louisville, a lot of contractors coming in, putting on rooftop solar. And there's been a lot of consumer complaints about incorrect, not good work, not completing the work or whatever. And I think LG&E was pretty clear that they're not in the business of approving contractors. When they get the call, they come out, make the hookup, but they're not approving. So as this goes on, I don't think we want to necessarily be in the business of having a list of contractors, but it's interesting because LG&E's basically saying they're not dealing, a homeowner shall pick whoever they want, and LG&E's just making the connection. They're not saying you've got a good system, bad system, because they're just saying that's not their area. So, I mean, they've been in the business, about 6 years? And so they've gone through a lot of these things. It was an interesting visit. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything, but it was a good visit, and I think we learned a lot.
Hey, John?
Yeah.
I did have one. I don't want to get in the business of picking vendors, but in my work, I do work with a lot of solar vendors and clients. I wonder, I throw this in Vince Court, I do wonder if we could create an FAQ if we don't have it, to kind of always make sure to get 2 or 3 quotes. Just a couple of basic things to be able to check the qualifications of their, on the customer, but just something we could do to help them do their due diligence. Is that beyond our?
Well, I think one thing that was interesting, and Ms. Kells indicated they didn't. I don't know if the city or county in their code enforcement, if they want to put rooftop solar on, if they have to pull a permit, which if they pull a permit, then there'd be an inspection. An electrical inspector would go out there and take a look and confirm it. LG&E didn't say whether City of Louisville had that kind of code enforcement. I don't know if the city and county have thought about code enforcement or if they're already doing it. Gary?
They are doing it.
They are doing code enforcement. So they have to meet certain standards But I think, Jason, you're going on to say, beyond the code enforcement, just kind of, here's things you might best, kind of maybe the Chamber of Commerce or somebody could put out a consumer thing in terms of, if you're picking a contractor, here's what y'all look for.
Sorry I got cut off there,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think a basic FAQ, we can even have it on our website or best road chamber.
Yeah. Or we
But
could
it
link to their,
basically would lay out some best practices.
You know, I think something like that along the lines of, you know, like Jason talked about, make sure you get multiple folks, you know, here's how you can review folks' complaints. I'd be very, very leery about mentioning any names
Right.
or anything. I don't think that's what Jason's saying
No.
either, is that we, you know, but, you know, like I said, we certainly don't want to be in the business of recommending contractors, but we want our customers to make smart decisions.
Right, and
when
be
they wanna
safe,
make
too.
this investment.
is Miss Lindsay back there hiding? You know what this means, don't you? Contact the chamber and work with Vint and Travis to do an FAQ? You want to go back in there now? Okay. Okay. Like I said, that's solar update. Catherine?
Yeah, just to kind of recap where we are. So we received April 1st the 1898 and Company's consultation report, and then our staff gave us a analysis on May 12th. And really the first thing in that analysis as far as next steps was to put money into the budget for 22-23, which we did. We met most recently internally June 24th, and Jason joined Vint and Travis and David and Gary and Hans and I, and he brings a lot to the table, so I really appreciate his expertise and helping to make sure we're considering you know, all the potential options out there, maybe thinking outside the box. And then Mr. Cubine, I really appreciate you setting up that meeting, because the more we can learn about everyone else's experiences with community solar, the better. And we did that on July 8th. And as a result of our June 24th internal meeting, some of the ideas, I believe staff is going to plug in some other numbers to see where we might land. You know, the ultimate goal is to come up with a design to propose for public comment, to get input on and see the public interest, but we really need to come up with some options to propose, you know, ultimately to see if we can come up with a design where the cost, the rate is attractive. So I'm assuming we'll probably be having another meeting internally fairly soon, and then coming up with a plan for public input.
And I think you referenced, LG&E mentioned that their efforts were mainly focused around education, not so much marketing, but education. And they went with 100% subscription rate. And they also had that interesting feature that they're marketing to a lot of corporations to buy the community solar, not necessarily even use it themselves, but take those credits, that lower rate, and actually give it to projects like Habitat for Humanity and others to use the credit. But the businesses are basically buying it and almost making it like a corporate donation to other agencies who could use that lower rate. I mean, it was interesting that they were working that, I don't want to call it angle, that approach to say, even if you don't want it, buy it, and there's other people who could benefit from this if you want to get it.
Yes.
So, any other, when do you think, Catherine, as far as, are you thinking August, September before we can, or when do you think we might be coming back to the board for, this is kind of the initial design, so we can kind of begin the education and the rollout in terms of kind of the process of gauging interest?
I think September's realistic.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Steve?
Now, what you were saying about the involvement of corporations in Louisville, I really think that's the key for what we have to do here, because I went into that meeting thinking that you would buy credits for some kind of positive financial impact, and came away with what that lady said was that people that are buying it via these credits, it's what she say
An emotional.
an emotional purchase, because you were doing something because to support a philosophy of for climate change and things like that, as opposed to looking at it, I guess, as if you had solar panels on your house where there's a financial return perhaps. And the other thing she talked about was that LGE, this is solely paid for by the program and not on any non-participating ratepayers. With those two things in mind, I really think there is an opportunity to petition companies in Franklin County that would buy credits, that whether they're given to places like Habitat for Humanities or subsidizes the general public who wants to buy these solar credits, thus bringing the price down somewhat, the rate down some.
Well, I would think the rates, we should know based on the design what the rate is. But I could see it being sort of a two-phase, where it's put out to our customers with maybe a cap, and then open it up from there, and maybe have different levels to open up to where we reach our 100% subscription, if that's what we decide is the safest thing to do before we break ground. I could see with us coming up with sort of a phased, sell, so to speak.
Any other discussion on that? Next item is, Jason, you want to update us on NREL?
Yeah, hey, sorry I've had a little bit of issue, but now I should be good now. I'm doing a different internet thing. Yeah, I think last week NREL gave a presentation to the city on renewables, which dovetails in exactly what we were just talking about. I've reviewed their PowerPoint and what they went over. A lot of it was leaning on some of the work we've been doing, and just sort of, I think, very soberly laying out the challenges to reaching full clean energy and the goals the city is talking about. I want to be clear that some of these challenges, they're very high, and as the city gets into this and really starts to grapple with the reality of moving toward 100% clean energy, they may need to make some concessions. They may need to spend a premium for that goal. But hopefully, as we move toward 2050, technologies will allow that to be more streamlined and sort of be a very logical thing for most communities, and a good business decision for most communities to do. And I'm glad for this.
Any questions for Jason? Okay, he's frozen there.
No,
Are you there? Okay. He's with us, okay. He's meditating. Next one is IT employment market, Nichelle and Ryan Henry. And just to kind of give you a backdrop on this real quick, Nichelle is working, because, we got a memo earlier that, we continue to have problems filling some positions in the IT area, given the market. State government has used price contracts for years. Going back years and years. And they're expensive in a sense, because you're not only buying the talent, you're also paying an overhead or administrative cost of the firm providing you that talent. So, I mean, we've got some things we're going to have to look at when Nichelle finishes her work in terms of, is using a contract the best way? Is simply doing some type of personal contract, service contract where we cut out the overhead or administrative person, or just doing something with our pay grades? But clearly that's a market that everybody's trying to hire those people, banks, government, hospitals, whatever. So, Nichelle, you want to take it?
Yes. Good evening, board chair, members of the board. As you mentioned, staff is working with the IT staff to implement some additional recruiting methods to attract IT candidates and broaden our talent pool for the 2 IT positions that we currently have advertised now. It's the IT network engineer and IT security manager. Staff has updated the position postings on the FPB website, and I'm encouraging the public to access our open job positions on Frankfurt Plant Board's website, and our website address is fpb.cc. So once again, once we have a chance to look at our different options and what we need to do, I will have an update for the board at the August board meeting.
And I've asked Nichelle to take a look at what state government's paying, what the University of Kentucky's paying, to see kind of what that market is. If y'all have got any thoughts between now and August in terms of some ideas for her to look at, this isn't a problem that's unique to the plant board at all. It's, everybody faces this. It's an occupation that's very much in demand and will continue to be in demand. For everything we do, it's more and more technology. So right now, those positions, it's a tough market. And like I said, state government for years has said we're going to hire these people, and in 3 or 6 months, we won't need them anymore. And then they stay, and they're good people, and they end up going to your Christmas parties, and they stick around. And 3 or 4 years later, you can't know you don't know what you do without them, and they're still on contract. And it's just because you don't get anybody to apply, because they can go and make more money with these companies, and these companies will sell their services, and then the companies add 20, 30, 40, whatever % on top of those salaries, and makes them very expensive. So if you've got some ideas, let Nichelle know so she can build this and bring us some ideas back in terms of how the board wants to approach it. And there's no inexpensive way to address this. It's just a tough market and tough recruiting. So, but want to let you all know that was coming up. Procurement plan, I'm going to let Vint talk about that. He kind of referenced it earlier. We're finding some need to, if they call, they get a bid, and they say if you order today, we can guarantee it. We can only guarantee the price if you want to buy now. We're going to be faced with options, whether we want to have emergency board meetings, give Gary additional authority, come up with some type of hybrid plan on these items that are budgeted, that are bid. So with that, Vint, take it away.
Yeah, I don't have the plan options available today. We are working on those. We're trying to put those together and some ideas. I think one of the important things we have to do is try to run those through staff attorney and make sure that we're proposing things that are appropriate and that pass the smell test. But yeah, we've been having conversations a lot with our superintendents and all of our purchasing folks to try to see what can and can't be done. And what makes sense for us. I don't want to paint a picture that if we don't do something tomorrow, we're falling apart. That's not it. We're just trying to adapt our particular ways we do things so that we are more nimble. I think that's the best way to describe it. Just like you described there, we have quite a few situations where it's something will come in the door that's hard to get, and it's like we have it for a couple of days. If you want it, I can give it to you today, but other than that, it's gone. Mm-hmm. And so right now, we can't do anything to accept those. There are different purchasing groups and some things like that we may be able to be involved in that help us do some things like that. And so hopefully next month I'll have a number of things for you, but again, kind of giving you a heads up that will be coming. Hopefully, I don't know that it'll let us move a little faster on some things. Unfortunately, I don't know that we have any magic bullet that's going to lower the prices on those items, but it may give us a situation where we can grab something that's on the market that may be 4 months before we can get it again, and those kind of things. So,
again, that's one that want to give you all a heads up that's coming. If you have some ideas or whatever, let Gary Vint know, so we can have a fuller discussion on it hopefully next month and decide if we want to make some changes or how we want to go about it. And the last item was there's been some discussion And I think Gary initially came up, what, about 2 years ago? I think you said?
I check it actually. There's a memo prepared by David Denton for me, Hans, and all of my staff. They work a lot of, actually exactly 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
It's July 1st, 2019. So I send that again. I do have a printout for you, David, prepared for you too. That's the kind of all the information we currently have. I know David, he's continued to spend more time today to look at all the other local nonprofit. How do they do the transition period time if you decide to move that direction? But you know, I'm going to say something you all know. This is almost, you set a new nonprofit 503C corporation. Then there is a lot of requirement by IRS, and since we are public owned, so I'm not an attorney, but that could be linked. This one become, you know, treated as a public owned. Even it could be, you know, it's almost have to be transparent. Everything else, record, new account. We have to keep all the update, and then you can file from the IRS. So that whole thing, actually, David probably know far better, but is the board, we just want to update to you. Then if that's the direction you want to move, I just provide all the information to you. Then if you want anything we want to do go further, we definitely can provide more information for you.
And I just want to add and open it up here. You know, legally, we have the authority to apply for, receive grants, donations, anything as the current entity. We don't need a foundation to do any of that. The question is, are there things, and you know, universities have foundations, the Kentucky State Fair Board has a foundation, a number of state agencies do. Are there things we would like to spend money, projects we would like to do, initiatives we'd like to undertake, that for whatever reason, using ratepayer money is not the appropriate way to go, and we would seek donations or grants to do that? If we do, the foundation gives us some options. If we feel comfortable with our current core business, and then if we want to apply for a federal grant, state grant, we want to seek corporate donations, we can do that with our current structure. So can state government. So I mean, I think the question is, do we want to go down that route, or is there a purpose that we want to do with it? Is there things we want to do that we feel constricted now? If it is, it's got options. If not, we don't have to do anything, but want to get it back on the table. And David and Gary's done a lot of work, and then open it up now if anybody has any questions about it, and kind of just wait to see if you all want to pursue it, and if so, what it might look like. So I open it up to this for any discussion.
John?
Yes, John?
I'll go ahead and put my head in the lion's mouth a little bit. You know, this is an interesting idea, but in all honesty, I'm going to go back. You know, we had a discussion last year around this time where it was suggested that we not give the electric rebate we were able to give last year that we're not able to this year because of the price increases. You know, that we not give that, instead give that money to the city. And I gave a speech at that point about the importance of the funds we have and the importance of the money we receive as being ratepayer money, and we're stewards of that ratepayer money. So in that instance, I think, you know, I think within our wheelhouse of electric and water and telecommunications, I think you're exactly right. I think we can apply for any federal grants we need to. I think we can solicit donations from the public, corporations, anything we wanted to do in order to do the stuff we want to do. To me, a foundation means that almost you're going a little far afield of what your core business model is. Not to mention, just from this memo and the paperwork that's here, this is going to take a tremendous amount of staff time and effort. And that's staff time and effort that our ratepayers are paying for. And so do we want that attention diverted from the core mission of what we do in order to establish this foundation? I just, you know, the potential's there, and I know certain people do it for certain reasons, whether you can get around certain, I know you said Fair Board does it for alcohol stuff and things like that, but I just don't see, I would need someone to make a compelling case to me that we need this. And right now, I just don't think, while it would be a nice thing to have, I think it'd be a very, very costly diversion. And I just, someone would have to come back with some sort of evidence that this is something we really, really need to do. I feel comfortable that we can do anything a foundation could do that we would want to do. I feel like we can do right now. That's just my thought process. So I don't know if anybody else says anything.
Steve?
Well, I don't disagree with anything you said, and I'm not pushing for a foundation. But just as I said earlier about companies.
I'm having trouble hearing him.
All right, I had turned it off, I'm sorry. I said I don't disagree with anything that John has said. In fact, I'm not pushing for a foundation. But just as I said earlier about companies donating, buying panels in a solar farm, if we had a separate foundation, I mean, there would be a long-term, it wouldn't be an immediate benefit, but a foundation set up could purchase those, with donations coming into it, could purchase those panels and donate them to, whatever the criteria is for that. So I'm just saying there are, among other things it could do that. So I mean, it could further our interest, it could further satisfy our interest in that solar farm and other things. So,
Catherine?
Honestly, the con of it taking staff time right now is probably enough to say not at this time. I just think there's so much on their plates right now. And I think we have a mandate and a mission, and I'm just not certain about even turning over some of that to a foundation.
Okay. Jason?
We'll see if I get through this without losing my internet.
You need to get that next band.
I guess I have a mixed opinion about this. I'm kind of hearing everybody, and I'm kind of agreeing with everyone. The one thing I do want to make note of is, in my experience, people lean on organizations to start a foundation who have a very competent and very professional senior staff and employees, because they trust those monies being donated to be used in effective and sort of impactful ways. So if we had someone who approached us who said, hey, I do want to leave money in hands that I trust the people, I could not think of any better staff than the staff we have to be able to utilize that in impactful ways and the ways that we touch the community in so many different ways. So I'd say that's what I would have to add beyond everyone else who's made really good observations on timing and, is this scope creep or is this beyond what we kind of do? But I guess I'd like to wait to see if someone wants to come and if there's a grant that makes sense to go for that is outside of our current purview that we could utilize properly, or if we had someone who wanted to donate, make a large endowment that we could manage, it's almost like kind of putting the cart before the horse a little bit.
And I might add, from experience, when I was a budget director in human resources, we had a lot of families who had relatives in Central State Hospital, Eastern State Hospital. They lost their loved ones, they died there, and they wanted to do something. And they actually made donations to the cabinet, and the cabinet created restricted funds on each of those donations and used it for a specific purpose. Maybe the family wanted to remodel the dining room or do something at the facility. Then we created specific designated accounts for that money, deposited it, and then gave the families a report back when we spent their money and what we did with it. So, I mean, there is the ability to even take, this is obviously a different circumstance, but families might give us like $5,000 and said, I want you to do something nice at Central, I want you to put in a garden or whatever. We'd put that in a separate account number, it would be audited, it'd be there, and when it was expended, we'd tell the family we spent the money for your loved one, you can come by and see, so we can we have the ability to accept a very specific, a specific donation, either for a general purpose or a specific purpose, if we want to go that route. Again, that's, government has a lot more flexibility, I think, than what they realize, but it does fall under our general, it'd be separate accounting, we'd have restricted funds, gifts, we'd have those categories, and it would be audited, which is a good thing, so. So, I mean, kind of everybody think about it. We don't have to, the reason I put it on there was there's been some interest. Wanted to get you the background, people think about it, and maybe you get some input from the community, you hear some different things, and we can bring it up at a later date and discuss it some more if we have some ideas, there's something we want to pursue. David, turnaround to create a foundation, assume we came with something and we absolutely had to create a foundation to do it. No way we could handle it within our current structure or whatever. Turnaround time, I know there's conditional approval from the IRS. I mean, final approval takes a long time. But I know there's conditional approval when you initially file. From ones I've been involved with before, kind of turnaround from the time you file it to you can actually start operating and accepting gifts. What's that turnaround? Do you know right off?
It depends. Like you said, you're very dependent. Once you get to the point of actually filing your application with the IRS to be tax exempt, you're at the mercy of approval.
Right.
It could take, 90 days to 6 months on the short side.
Yeah. Okay. So, everybody think about it. If you hear anything from the community, people who heard this discussion, you got some ideas that we want to bring back, let Gary know, David know. We can research it, and then when everybody's ready, we can bring it back. So, okay. Next item is General Manager.
I really don't have any information item, except if you want.
Gary, can you turn your mic on?
Sorry, I don't have any information item. Only thing is if Hans is not here, if you want to have a closing
Yes.
section.
Before we do that, do we have any old or new business? Anything we need to bring up? Okay.
Mr. Chair, if it's in order, I'd like to request permission to call closed session pursuant to KRS 6181C to discuss pending or proposed litigation regarding both an OSHA matter as well as a contract matter.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. We'll take a 5-minute break here while we kind of clear the room and then come back.